Hey everyone! Today I want to talk about Mary Poppins from 1964 by Robert Stevenson. This is the 19th episode of my 1,000 Favorite Movies series, where I talk about the movies I love the most in a random order. When I was young, my family used to watch movies pretty much every night. We had a collection of VHSs and DVDs that we would choose from. Mostly it was my sister and I who would select the movie, but occasionally my mom did, and more often than not, it seemed like she would select Mary Poppins. I was always slightly disappointed. It engaged me, but maybe I was just put off by its age and its, I guess, uncoolness. Well, now I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank my mom for pushing this movie onto me, because I've come to realize that it's not only my favorite live action Disney movie, but also one of my top 100 favorite movies today. This is the second of my top 100 favorite movies I'll be talking about, and also my first musical on this whole list, which, if I had to pick a favorite genre, would be it. I have the sense that this usually isn't thought of as one of the great musicals, maybe perhaps because of the Disney name, but make no mistake, I think this is one of the great joys and treasures of world cinema. And if not, well, then it's one of my great treasures, which is good enough for me. By the way, if you want to see more videos about more of my favorite movies with more great Japan locations, well, good news. I upload a new one every Friday, so please like and subscribe to see them all. I'm a very small channel, so every new like and subscription is much appreciated. Thanks so much. Now back to the movie. In case you don't know the story, it's about the Banks family who live at number 17 Cherry Tree Lane. After the latest nanny quits the job due to the unruly children, Jane and Michael, by magical circumstance, Mary Poppins appears from the sky to step in as the new nanny. But she's different from all the rest. She has a cheery disposition, is kind but extremely firm. Some would even say she's practically perfect in every way. She sings and seemingly has magic powers, and she's played by Julie Andrews. She also has a friend called Bert, played by Dick Van Dyke, whose relationship to Poppins is a bit unclear. Actually, a lot of things are unclear about Bert. In fact, he's about as mysterious as Poppins herself in his own way. Together, they lead their children through some magical adventures, such as a trip through a sidewalk painting or atop the roofs of London. This brings me to one of my favorite aspects about this movie, which is a huge touch of fantasy and how it all somehow fits into the real world of London. This fantasy is used in many ways, big and small, from head to toe of this movie. The more obvious ways are the ones related to Mary Poppins, like her infinity bag, in which she can pull out anything, or like how she gives the kids powers to clean up their room, or how she can make stairs out of smoke. Not to mention being able to jump into the painting. But this fantasy isn't just constrained to Mary Poppins, it's just a daily fact of life. For example, there's a character called Uncle Albert that floats in the air just by laughing, along with another character later in the movie, a banker. One of my favorites is the rooftop cannonball, headed by the famously punctual Admiral Boom. He regularly fires a cannonball in the air for some reason, causing all the paintings and furniture in the house to move. This detail didn't have to be in the movie, but is so charming that I'd never do without it. Basically, if you couldn't already tell, this is a special effects extravaganza. Being from the 60s, a lot of these effects were achieved practically, such as the opening scene of Mary Poppins sitting on a cloud. If made today, this would have just been a CG effect, but as it is, it's much more delightful than that. There are also more complicated ones that use green screens and painted backdrops and the like, used an elegant combination to make something like this, for example, an impossible stunt that sure had me fooled when I was a kid. There's also, of course, the painting sequence, a smooth and exciting blend of animation, live action, and real props and sets. Now, I'm no special effects expert, but if I were, perhaps I'd notice how rudimentary all the effects might appear to be today, but that doesn't take away from the fact that artistically, this unbelievably fluid integration of effects into the real life of the movie is just wonderful, and makes an impression even today. But of course, we don't come to a musical for the special effects. We come for the music, and Mary Poppins has one classic after another, adding to the joyous nature of the movie. The two most famous songs are probably A Spoonful of Sugar and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, both highly effects enhanced numbers that don't get old no matter how many times you hear them. The first is great because it really does teach a valuable lesson that I sometimes remember and follow, that even if you have a dull task ahead, Finding some way to make a game out of it helps you complete it effectively and enjoyably. And the second is memorable because of the clever name, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and also because of the sheer friendly exuberance of Bert and especially Mary. The song's short but very sweet. But those aren't even among my favorite songs in the movie. One of my favorites is the first one, where Mrs. Banks sings about her efforts as a suffragette. It doesn't really have to do with the rest of the story, but this energetic song provides us with some context of the film's setting, as well as a random pro suffrage message that's always welcome. But for me, the real highlights of this movie are the two big musical sequences, one of them being the painting section, and namely the song Jolly Holiday. It's a great love song between friends, first with Bert singing about Mary, then Mary singing about Bert. The lyrics are just wonderful, but I don't want to sing the whole song. I also love how the different animals sing along with all their unique voices. The song continues to the famous penguin scene, which features Dick Van Dyke dancing like a penguin. I don't know if it's just me, but I have certain scenes in movies that I go back to time and time again when I want to feel good. They're musical numbers more often than not, and this whole section is absolutely one of them. It's one of my favorite scenes in any movie. The other big musical scene is the thrilling rooftop sequence. After the gang sing Chim Chim Cheree, about a dozen chimney sweeps pop out and they sing Step in Time with Bert. This most closely resembles a typical group dance musical number out of all the numbers in the movie. But this has real magic to it, having to do with the special effects, choreography with the environment, nighttime atmosphere, and Mary Poppins getting into the routine while everyone's commenting on it. Seeing all the different acrobatics among the copious amount of painted backdrops is really fun, especially the ones that are basically impossible. My favorite part is this, where it looks like they're having a hard time balancing on this tiny little ledge, but then in an instant they start kicking in the air as if nothing happened. This scene just has one delightful surprise after another. But not everything in Mary Poppins is so lighthearted. I've yet to mention Mr. Banks, played by David Tomlinson. He's an actor with an extremely likable presence, but his character is so stodgy and by the book that it seems like at times he doesn't care about his children as people, rather as his successors who must be properly groomed as such. The lowest point of this tension between the father and children comes after the incident at the bank, where Michael tells Bert, he doesn't like us at all. This is about as dark as the movie gets, and it's in this scene where Bert speaks to them when we start to have sympathy for Mr. Banks' situation. The shift of focus onto him in the back half of the movie makes it clear that the one dynamic character who goes through a change is the father, and not any children, who after all aren't very interesting characters. In a way, he is the reason why Mary Poppins appeared in the first place. His character change is punctuated by the beautiful Let's Go Fly a Kite number, where he finally becomes a true father. This being one of the best songs in the movie also makes the scene more emotionally impactful. Now for my favorite scenes in the movie, which, as you might imagine, is difficult for me. I already said that the Jolly Holiday scene is my favorite, so let me talk about others that I love. For one, there's the bank song, where all the heads of the bank sing, trying to convince Michael to give them tuppence. I love the ridiculousness of them caring so damn much about his measly tuppence, and also all these old guys doing this head-nodding march back and forth, always make me laugh. The lyrics are also great, a lot of it because they include difficult terminology that even I don't understand, because I know next to nothing about money and banking. Of course, kids really wouldn't be able to understand, so comprehension of the song more likely than not improves with age. There's also Dick Van Dyke playing the chairman of the bank in hilarious fashion, who can barely control his motions and becomes a comedy pantomime performance. Keeping with musical numbers, I also love Feed the Birds, the most effective quiet song in the movie. The haunting visuals replicate looking through a snow globe, and she sings about this old woman selling feed for birds. The song is beautiful, but what really makes the scene is really the following scene, where the children of Mr. Banks actually see the woman in real life. This makes the song so much more poignant because it's not just some fairy tale, it's real. I enjoy the scene more because now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that the woman playing her is actually John Ford regular Jane Darwell in her final performance. The scene has an element of humor, too, from a couple of Mr. Banks's lines. Jane says, "You do see her, don't you, father?" To which he ironically responds, "Well, of course I see her. Do you think I can't see past the end of my nose?" Then Michael says, "Listen, father, she's saying it." And he replies, "Well, of course she's saying it. What else would she be saying?" Great answer, guy. I'm also greatly amused by Mr. Banks' song as he comes home for the first time. His wife is trying to tell him that his children are missing, but he's too self absorbed in his song about the lordly life he leads to notice. Splendid, splendid. But in the end, what I love about Mary Poppins is not only its brilliant music and lyrics, but how it presents a magical, fantastic world rooted in the present, done through a huge amount of effects that only add to the immense charm. Julie Andrews, David Tomlinson, and particularly Dick Van Dyke create unforgettable characters that give life to this funny, adventurous story about learning to enjoy life more. It's one of my 100 favorite movies. Thanks for watching my video. Goshou makoto ni arigatou gozaimasu. Have you seen Mary Poppins? Let me know what you think in the comments. I think of all of my favorite movies as my friends, and I think of my audience as friends too. Remember, I upload a new video every Friday, so if you want to help me complete this 1,000 favorite movies epic, don't forget to like and subscribe.